Hello, everyone, and thank you for coming to my senior project presentation, even if it just was because your teacher made you come down. So I've learned a ton over this last month of making my boat, but perhaps the most important lesson I've learned is that pineapples do not grow on trees. Now, this pineapple is a plant, or I'm growing it at my house, and I learned last week that it will not grow into a tree. This could have been the greatest lie of my life. Could you imagine waiting for that tree to sprout, and it never does? But now that we're on the topic of boats, let's talk about this one. So my inquiry question included, of course, building a boat that was sound enough to sail in Casco Bay, but I also wanted to become proficient in the skills that I would use to make this boat. I wanted to have skills that I could take away if I was to become a homeowner in the future so I could perform maintenance tasks in my home. Now, I've divided this project into a 3-step process. So I had these plans right here. I bought them online, and as you can see, this is a mess. So I had to follow very precise measurements and angles to make this strong back because it literally was the backbone of building this boat. For example, this angle is 11 degrees. Would it matter if it was 12 degrees or 10 degrees? I doubt it. But it's very important that I maintained exactly what this plan said so that I wouldn't mess up a degree here, an inch there, and then before I knew it would just be a mess. And then the second part was to build this. So there are 5 frames right here mounted to the strong back, and so it's the bow, transom, and then there's 3 intermediates. And this is to give shape to the boat. Now, the second part of this process was to do finishing touches on the strong back, measuring degrees, making sure everything was level, and then it was time to rough cut the plywood. So I took rough measurements, cut the plywood, and I clamped it to the frame and traced, and then I cut it out with a jigsaw. And so this was really important because this was my last chance to make any changes before it would be glued to the frame with epoxy. And if you don't know, that is extremely strong glue that pretty much will never come apart. In fact, this boat is only held together by epoxy. There are no screws, no nails in it whatsoever. And so this was really exciting. So after I had it all sized out, then I was able to apply epoxy right along here and clamp everything down. And then the third step of this process is a little bit more generic. You would do this for most any plywood boat that you were making. So I mixed up a special batch of epoxy. That's called a filleting mixture. And so I would fill in cracks like these, any screw holes, so that it was a really nice flat surface. And I did this multiple times to get everything. And then finally I mixed up this huge batch and I just covered the whole boat here to give it a nice uniform surface. And you also need this before you start putting down the fiberglass. Now to put down the fiberglass, I mixed another huge batch of resin, but without any type of mixture in it. It was just the resin and the hardener. And then I did a process called wetting it out, which is literally just painting on the boat with a paintbrush, just kind of sloppy. You just want to get it on there, and then you fold the fabric over the top and you dab more resin on top, and the goal is to fill the weave completely so it's actually clear, and it'll look much like this when it's done. Now, as you can see, it's turning out to be a fine vessel, but it's not quite ready to go into Casco Bay yet. So what needs to happen? So referring back to these plans here, I need to install 3 benches, and I also need to cut a hole here for the dagger board, which will be right here. And the dagger board is this piece right here. It helps with steering. And then I need to install something called a mast step, which is represented by this hole right here, and that's literally what holds the mast upright. Now, paint color, very exciting. So right here is going to be a turquoise color bottom paint, and then right here is going to be white. a forest green stripe here, and then this area is called the rub rail, and that'll be done with rope as seen in the middle photo. And then I'll also have the name and port location, which goes on the transom. Those will be forest green to match the stripe. Now, there's a few more things you need before you can go sailing, mainly a mast, boom, sail, tiller, rudder, and centerboard. And I actually had all of these before I even started building this project. My family is a long line of successful pack rats. So to give an example to this, my father had a boat very similar to this one when he was a kid, and he actually learned to sail on it. That was over 50 years ago. And he kept all of this in the basement, and now finally it gets used. So this isn't so great for us because this will only increase our tendencies to save things because now it's proved its worth. But anyways, so it was used even before my family acquired it. And so these pieces could easily be 60 years old. And as you can imagine, they were quite crusty when I found them. So the first thing I had to do was I had to strip them down, and then I had to attack it with some sandpaper. And then soon they'll be ready for a coat of marine varnish. And then I also gave this sail a good wash after its quarantine in my grandparents' basement and hung it out to dry. And then I also did the same stripping and sanding process with these oars, and they're a little bit more dinged up, so they'll have a green and white color scheme to match the boat. Now, I told you that the name is going to be forest green, but it needs a little bit more of an explanation than that. Charybdis, you might remember her from Greek mythology. She is essentially an enormous sea monster right here that lives beneath the waves and creates an enormous whirlpool and swallows down ships and sailors alike. And she terrorizes Greek heroes with her sister Scylla. Now, why did I pick a monster from Greek mythology? Ever since elementary school, when I read the Percy Jackson series, I've had such a love and interest with Greek mythology. Those books are near and dear to my heart, and I'm actually rereading them right now, no shame. And then my father and grandfather actually named their boat Circe, who is a sorceress from Greek mythology. So I wanted to continue this process of having sailing and Greek mythology together. Now, there were a few hiccups along the way. First of all, money. Boating is a very expensive hobby. Any boat owner will tell you that. In fact, I learned the saying, a boat is merely a hole in the water in which you pour money. So this was very apparent to me as I got going. As you can see, I had a lot of fun spending my money, but it added up, $538. That is quite expensive. So what did I do? I, of course, sold desserts to the track team, and I made a total of $72, and I will be selling more at the state meet this weekend. So this means I've had to pull $466 out of my savings account. The second problem was time. So I caught COVID, as I'm sure we're all familiar with, and this is what week 3 looked like. Although the TV show Moon Knight was awesome and the coffee ice cream was delicious, my favorite, it was not contributing to the overall progress of my project. And since I had to stay in quarantine, this was a major setback. Now, what skills did I learn from FHS? Communication. Any group project or negotiating with a teacher about a test retake is how I learned my communication skills. So when I walked into a store to buy lumber or any other materials, I would speak with the store manager and explain my situation. I said, "Hi, my name's Tessa Erico. I'm a senior at FHS, and I'm doing a senior project. Is there any financial help you can give me?" And if I had good eye contact, confidence, and clarity, that would definitely increase my chances of getting some help. And then mathematical analysis. So as you saw, those plans were really cramped and confusing, and what I would do is some of those plans were to scale. So I would take an architectural ruler and measure this little space on the paper, and then I would convert that into what it would be in real life when I was building the strong back. And problem solving. So I got angles wrong, measurements wrong. So when I had to correct those, I needed to use problem solving so that I wouldn't just rip the whole thing apart and undo 2 days of work. I had to keep the project moving forward and fix things as I went along without undoing too much. And then public speaking. I love this class, and this is what's giving me the confidence to speak to you right now. And then takeaways, patience. There was a lot of measuring and remeasuring, and math isn't my thing. I've tried really hard, but it's not. So I had to have patience, and although it took a while to start taking shape, it was so important to be thorough with this process. And tips and tricks. So maybe the plans say sand here. Okay, well, everybody knows how to use this piece of sandpaper, but my project advisor was able to teach things that you couldn't write in a paragraph. He was able to teach me a better way to hold the sanding block, how you shouldn't be really aggressive with it, because that's not, it's only postponing the end result. It's not an effective way to sand. And then if it looks right, it is right. As much as I've said that everything needs to be exact, there's some things that you can't measure. For example, this hull right here, it has to have a nice curve to it, both so that things line up, so that the fiberglass lays nicely, and it just looks good. There's no way for me to measure that, so you have to have a keen eye and just look and make sure that the hull is having a nice curve, there's no flat spots. And so I did that when I was in part 2, when I talked about I was laying on the plywood. And then enjoy the process. Believe it or not, I had a little bit of a hard time with this at points. When it's sunny out, there's a nice breeze, all I can think about is how I'd much rather be sailing than choking on sawdust in my parents' garage. But I have no reason to be building a boat if I don't enjoy it. And so once I let go of that, I told myself there'd be many more sunny days in the summer to go sailing. I was able to enjoy this. Now I've come to the most important part of my presentation, are the thank yous. And as requested, I will introduce my project advisor as the man, the myth, the legend, Bob Wakefield. And I want to thank him so much for all the time and all the skills that he's taught me this month, and of course his patience with me. And next up, I'd like to thank Crystal Chappelle, who is actually Bob's cousin, and she basically acted as my personal photographer for this month. And she has such a great eye for photography, and she took a lot of the pictures that you've seen in this presentation. And of course, Miss Cook, my project advisor, she's given me a lot of patience with me and a lot of guidance this month. And Miss Blyer for her awesome public speaking class, where I both learned and laughed a lot. And then Miss Peterson and Miss Levitt, of course, for doing a great job organizing senior projects. My family for letting me make a mess in the garage for a month. Eldridge and Hammond Lumber, I've got at least $150 worth of materials for free from them, and that I appreciate so much. And then, as promised, I'm giving a shout out to the FHS track and field team for buying my desserts to help fund part of my senior project. And of course, FHS for the last 4 years and this opportunity. And I also want to give a big thank you to you, my audience, for your attention. And I can now answer any questions. Mr. G.
How much experience did you have going into this? And then what were your kind of favorite new tools that you got going into this?
So the question was, what kind of experience did I have going in this project, and what were my favorite tools? So I've never built a boat before. No one in my family's ever built a boat. So in terms of like fiberglassing and the process where you make the frame is called lofting. So in terms of fiberglassing and lofting, zero experience. But I had used most of the power tools. I've used a drill. I've used the jigsaw, things like that, but I was very uncomfortable with the jigsaw before I started, and so I became a lot more comfortable as I went along, and the jigsaw was probably my favorite tool. It's really fun. Ames?
So how many initial designs did you have for a boat that you wanted to create? Like, how many designs before you made this boat did you have for like a different boat that you maybe wanted to design?
So the question was, how many different designs did I have before making this boat? So I bought the patterns or the plans online. My project advisor helped me helped me find a website that would have reliable plans and help me find something that was within both the time frame and my experience frame of what I could do. So I did not plan out this boat. I've never sketched any boat designs, although I think that'd be pretty cool to build a boat that I myself have envisioned. Yes, no.
I think you said in the beginning that one of your goals was, in doing this project, other than wanting to build a boat, was to learn skills that you could use in your lifetime. So did you feel like the skills you learned from this are transferable into some of the skills you might need to use around the house or a car or whatever?
So the question was, I said in the beginning that I wanted to acquire skills that I could use later on, maybe for being a homeowner, and the answer is definitely. So Bob taught me how to, the metal tab on the end of a measuring tape moves a little bit. So he taught me that if you need something to be really precise, you don't want to go by that. You want to bring it to like the 1-inch mark so you're not dealing with that wiggly tab. So little things like that, yes, I learned from this project, but you could use that for anything. You always need a tape measure. So absolutely, that's a really basic example, but yes, I feel that I could fix or build a lot more than I could have before doing this project.
You have such an awesome stage presence. I could have, I wrote on your evaluation, I could listen to that for hours. It was just so engaging and funny. Yeah. You did great.
All right, so welcome everybody. My name is Peyton Landsbergen, and for my senior project, I decided to bite off too much probably that I should have, but I started a clothing brand from the start up. So my inquiry question was, what is the process of making a clothing brand? And as you can see, we have a whole bunch of goals here. First, we gotta pick the brand name because we started it from the bottom. So we picked the brand name. We had to create designs, obviously, which is kind of important for a brand. We had to pick out the clothing blanks, like what I was actually gonna print, anything on. And then we had to find a manufacturer because, well, I'm not talented in screen printing, so I thought that was probably the best way to go. Promote everything on social media and also create a website. And then finally, if all these else worked out, I was gonna make connections with local businesses. Now, background. So some of you might know I actually have been in the fashion industry for around 6 years now. I've started my own company, and as you can see, we do a lot of things with shoes. I buy and resell shoes, clothing, basically everything. It's been a dream of mine to have my own brand for a very long time. So this is definitely a good use of my time. I didn't just come up with this one day when I was eating cereal before school. It's just been in the process for a long time. So creating the name and the designs. So I stumbled across 369 one day, actually right before the project started, and I knew right away that it was going to fit perfectly for what I wanted. It's an angel number that means manifestation, creativity, and inner strength. Now, all three of those things definitely affects me and affects everything that I've done in my past, so I knew right away that this was going to work perfectly. I started off doing some basic designs, but I soon realized that digital design was not my forte, to say the least. So I had to actually hire a digital designer that was a connection of mine that I've known for many years. Shout out to him. He's not here, but so he took the angel design to the next level through a lot of meticulous back and forth with him. So this is all the design process. Now, the t-shirt blank selection. Now, I know a lot of you are probably bored right now, but there's like 50 different types of blank t-shirts, and I'm not going to get into it, but the differences are price, obviously, which is pretty important to a lot of people. The weight of the t-shirt, how heavy it actually is, the fit, is it boxy or is it slim fit, and then availability, because it actually is hard to get white t-shirts sometimes, but I'm not going to go further into that. But manufacturing, now this was a very, very important part because to actually get anything made, you need a manufacturer. So I reached out to many manufacturers, and the differences really quickly between each one of them is price, time of production, which was a massive one, and then different printing options and provided services. So different printing options, this can be from screen printing to DTG printing, puff printing, embroidery. I can go on and on. There's so many different ways that manufacturers actually make clothes. Some provided services, as you see up here. I actually got my shirts folded and put in plastic to keep everything organized, clean, and just easier to ship. I also got custom tags made, which is what you see on the t-shirts there. The biggest struggle for this was honestly just getting it done, everything made in time. Now this, just from my background, I know that this whole process is supposed to take anywhere from a couple of months to half a year, and I decided that I'm going to squeeze it into 1 month, which is definitely ambitious. So to get actually t-shirts made was a big struggle of mine. It normally takes 1 to 2 months just to have them made. So I had to pull a lot of strings and get a lot of stuff done very fast. I went from 10 different manufacturers I was emailing back and forth. I went from California, which I thought I was going to use, to Miami, and it was a whole struggle. But I, through a lot of communication skills I learned from FHS, I was able to kind of get that done. So next I want to talk about social media. Now, I'm not going to lie, social media presence was like my last of my worries. I really just wanted to get the shirts made, but then toward the end of the project, I realized that this is going to be a really important part. And there's actually a lot more to it than I originally imagined. Some of the things I learned just from making an Instagram page was the best time to post during different days that more people actually see your posts, how to use Instagram Reels, which is a new thing some of you guys might be aware of. And I didn't get to utilize these skills too much, but I'm going to in the future. Promoting strategies, so this is like resharing to your story or just other strategies. Utilizing ads for more exposure. I definitely want to get into that more. I didn't really utilize it too much, but I did do a lot of research and talk to a lot of my connections about it. So this is definitely going to be something I use in the future. But yeah, I made an Instagram page. I want to definitely dabble in more social media later on. Now to the product photos. Now this was probably the best part of the whole project in my opinion. I was able to work with a good friend of mine, Maximo, and a bunch of other of my friends to set up a whole entire light studio. It took around an hour to set up alone in the parking garage, and I ended up with some amazing pictures. I took around 300 pictures that one night. Didn't get a lot of sleep, but it's okay. And yeah, it turned out amazing. I was going to use these product photos for my website and social media later on, and I found out through research too and talking to people that the better photos you have, the easier it is to get exposed to new audiences, so I definitely focused on this. Now, creating the website. Now, this is very boring, I'm not going to lie, but I went through a lot of different website options. There's so many, Shopify, Wix, Big Cartel, literally there's like hundreds, right? But I was really struggling because I'm not the best at technology, as some of you might know, but there was just so many differences between the two. Obviously, price, again, is a big one. Time to set up, like how user-friendly is it? Available payment options, do they take credit cards, PayPal, basically anything. And then overall customization. Obviously, I have my product page here. It's not completely done just yet, but we have a lot of pictures that some websites didn't even offer. So yeah, like I said, I ran into a lot of issues just setting everything up on my website. So through connections, I was able to talk it through with a lot of people and get it to exactly how I wanted it. Now, connections with local businesses. Now, this kind of wrapped everything up for me. Through my company, I was able to connect through many different local stores in the area, a bunch of them in the mall in Portland, even in New Hampshire, Massachusetts, just a lot of different stores that I've worked with in the past for consignment and just a bunch of other stuff. So I was able to reach out to these owners just by giving them a phone call or actually going visit in person and just talking through maybe putting some of my products in their stores. I agreed to, a lot of the stores agreed to putting at least a little pop-up in each of the stores, which I thought was amazing. Obviously, I have a limited amount of shirts, and they're already selling. So how many shirts are going to be in these stores is kind of up for debate at this point, but I love the exposure. And yeah, it was just a fantastic seeing my shirts in a store. And there's even a store opening up really soon outside the main mall that will have a pop-up with my clothes. So definitely an amazing kind of achievement after all the struggles. So what's next? So this is kind of, obviously I'm starting this, right before I graduate, kind of the worst time to do it. But I'm not going to, just stop this now. I feel like I've given myself too many headaches to kind of just end it here. So I'm planning on dropping these t-shirts Friday at 6 o'clock p.m. Eastern on my website if anybody's interested. Yeah, so I'm continuing to do this through social media and basically everything I can through the summer when I have a little bit of free time, and then hopefully through college. We'll see how far that gets, but yeah, I've really fallen in love with the process, and I don't plan on stopping anytime soon. So yeah, I'm so excited. I've also reached out to a bunch of celebrities that I also have in contact through my company, and I'm trying to get more public eye exposure too. So it's not just Maine, but kind of worldwide. So that's definitely the goal. But on to my takeaways. Now, I'm just going to say, there was so many takeaways, like so many. This process was the up and down battle the whole time, but just a couple of the main ones. Building connections was kind of just a life skill I've realized before I even started this, but I came in the game came into this project with so many connections that I've made over like the past 4 years. So it definitely was a big help to me. I could just call somebody up and say, hey, I have a question about something, and they'd be able to answer it right away. So definitely a big help there, and I recommend anybody that's going into a new field, try to get in touch with somebody that's in their field already to get just another person that you could call or ask questions about. And then probably the biggest thing that I learned just from this process was understanding my strengths, but also my weaknesses. I think this is a big way to battle any problem I guess anybody would have for any time. I realized that obviously digital design was not my strength by any means. So instead of learning how to do that whole process over taking like a week to learn that, I realized that instead of that, I'm going to let somebody that's their passion, that's what they want to do, I'm going to let them do that, and I can focus on what I like to do. So hiring the digital designer or getting somebody to help me with the photography, I allowed myself to free up time for the things I enjoyed and what I was best at. So I think finding out a way to kind of mesh a team together that everybody enjoys what they're doing and it has like a dream team effect to result in an amazing end product. So I think that any challenge I face from now on, on them, I kind of look at it differently, and not I have to take everything on, but kind of like my team and we have to take it on together. So definitely assembling a team that can handle problems easily. And then just overcoming obstacles. Like I said, this has been an up and down battle since like the start, just from time and everything. But I basically learned every skill just in this last month. But I feel like at the end of the day, like I fell in love with the process. So overcoming those obstacles was really easy at the end of the day, because for me, I fell in love with it and my passion was just keep driving me. So that was a big one for me. I just want to say a lot of thank yous. I know this is like everybody's favorite part, like my parents, my teachers, everybody here, First to my design team, everybody behind the curtains. I know like nobody's here, but I guess it's the thought that counts. Miss Bessie, I think she's also sick today, but again, it's the thought that counts. Thank you for assisting me in everything and always being there for me. FHS for just always inspiring me to continue, and every single one of my teachers that has affected me. I don't want to sit up here and say like certain teachers, because everyone has pushed me to be the person I am now. So I really appreciate everybody, especially Miss Blyer for public speaking, because I am pretty comfortable up here. It might not seem like it, and then all of you guys for listening for me talk for 11 minutes or 12 minutes. I really appreciate it. I know you're out of class or you're either in social, you could have been doing something better. So I do really appreciate everybody just hearing me talk for this long, and thank you guys so much. And does anybody have any questions? Yes, Ames.
Thank you for acknowledging me that I was one of the people. Anyways, so one of my questions is, it's basically similar to Tessa's. How many
Okay.
designs before you got to the one design that you really liked did you have? Like, how many initial designs?
Okay, so got you. Yeah. So my great friend Ames, he wants to know how many designs did I go through before I picked the final design. And well, my great friend Ames, I went through a lot. So as you can see, we definitely made a lot of designs. Actually, this end product angel here with the arrows pointing to, how lovely. I was probably going to use that, but through the understanding that there are so many colors in that design, it brought up a lot of problems. So I would say around 10 to 12 before I figured out exactly what I wanted to do. Yes.
Do you have plans post-high school to pursue like marketing and entrepreneurship?
Okay. Yes. So the question is, do I want to continue anything in this field, like marketing or entrepreneurship? So that's actually a funny question. So throughout my whole entire high school career, I've been battling different career paths, and that's definitely been an option for me. But I feel like no matter where I end up, I'm going to come back definitely to the fashion industry if it's just a hobby. But yeah, definitely marketing or entrepreneurship. That's kind of like what my passion is, and just falling in love with something and just pushing it to its limits. So definitely. Yes. Okay, the question was, said and done, what is the profit margins looking like? That's a really funny question. I'm going to pass on that one. Thank you very much, though. Yeah, that's the TED Talk. You got to pay for that. Thank you. Yes, Joey. Okay. So the question is from Joey. If he has one of the shirts, can he pull? For those that don't understand the question, that means normally in my terminology, picking up girls. So I'd like to say yes. I'm gonna sell you on it. You could get any girl in the world you want if you wear one of these shirts. Yeah, got you. Just go to the website. Yes, Jake. All right, so the question is by Mr. Willett, what is an angel number? And actually, that's a very good question. I'm not going to lie. So this is completely new to me, completely new. Honestly, I think this kind of meshes with the astrology and all that. So I'm not really too informed, but I do know that there's a set of numbers that pop up randomly according to whoever, and it has a deeper meaning. And you know what? I saw the deeper meaning. I was like, yes. So there you go. Yes, Ames again.
I think mine was the best question, the most realistic question so far. But anyways, what inspired you to design shirts?
Okay, so the question from Ames, again, is what does inspired me to make my t-shirts? And it's definitely like all my just passion for the industry, and just I really wanted to create something because I've been involved in the fashion industry for so long and selling other people's stuff that I figured it's time to dabble in it myself. So thank you. Yes, up there. Okay, last question. Who invited this guy? I feel like I'm on Shark Tank. All right. I'm going to be honest. I really don't even know what you just said, but I really appreciate you coming, Evan, and thank you for everybody coming today. I really do appreciate it. Thank you.